Welcome. You're listening to Coffee Break with Purdue Engineering, a podcast production from the Office of Future Engineers at Purdue University. In this podcast series, we discuss the many programs, majors, and opportunities found in Purdue Engineering through conversational interviews with staff, faculty, alumni, and current students. We hope you enjoy our show and it helps answer some of your questions about what it's like to be an engineering student at Purdue. Welcome to this week's episode of Coffee Break with Purdue Engineering, where we'll be discussing Purdue's Aeronautical and Astronautical engineering major. Again, I'm one of your hosts, Calvin Given, a current senior in electrical engineering, planning to do a +1 master's after graduation, and I'm from Lakewood, Colorado.
Yeah, and my name is Bryan Akamadi. I'm a sophomore in electrical engineering. I'm from Miami, Florida, and I'm involved in NESB, MEP, and a member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. And this week we are joined by Ayush Srivastva.
Hi. Thank you for having me. I'm a senior.
Thank you for being here. Yeah, who are you exactly, other than Ayush?
Yes, my name is Ayush Srivastva. I am a senior here and studying Aeronautical and Astronautical Engineering, AAE. I've been involved with Purdue Space Program, pretty involved. I'm going to be talking a whole lot about PSP. I've been involved in Purdue Space Day. I'm currently a peer counselor here at the Office of Future Engineers, which is what we all are.
Yep.
Right now home for me is Parker, Colorado, not too far away from you, Calvin. But I grew up in a few different places, Minneapolis, Bangalore. So I'm kind of from all over the place, but I really like hiking, kickboxing. I'm a huge motorsport fan, and
I guess one of the I'm biased towards Colorado.
Yep.
So what are some of your favorite things about being in Colorado now?
Oh man, I mean, hiking, like the 13ers and 14ers are some of my like big goals, right? I want to get done with them by the end of the year. But
This year?
Hopefully, yeah.
All 52 of them?
Oh no, not all 52. I want to take them off the list, but
Okay.
we'll get through them.
Okay,
Yeah.
I was going to be really impressed. I've done 12 of them so far.
We should do them together.
Yeah, totally.
All right.
And then what was your journey getting to Purdue like? I know we all have a different journey to get here, all have different experiences, and so how'd you get to Purdue?
It's a long flight from Colorado.
I was an even longer flight from Bangalore, India. Actually. I did my high school over there. And it was a really interesting case for me. I was a part of the 2020 high school batch. That's like peak COVID, right?
Yep.
Couldn't go wherever I wanted to. I couldn't do any of those college tours or anything like that, especially in India. The only choice I had when I was looking at different colleges was basically what any other 18-year-old would do. Just go on Google and be like, top-ranked engineering schools. Yeah. To be perfectly honest here, right? But, I did have, a few other interactions. I had a few upperclassmen friends who did tell me about Purdue. They happened to be at Purdue, and I got to hear a lot about how cool their engineering was. They told me about, our Bechtel Innovation Design Center, and I think the thing that really put the final nail in that coffin for coming to Purdue was when I found out about Purdue Space Program. I was a high school student, and I found their Instagram, and I thought, man, this is cool. They're making like rockets, and just like watching their videos and watching them put them all together, I was like, this is something I really want to be a part of. Like I said, I have been very involved in that organization. Once I came here, I liked it so much, I eventually became the president, right? So that's definitely been a journey, and it's kind of really been responsible for, the kind of engineer that I'm proud of today. So, yeah.
And I guess our next question is, since you've been here for 4 years about now, how would you briefly describe AAE?
Right, yeah. So, Aero can involve anything between, working on like the nitty-gritty physics of like navigating with an interplanetary probe, or learning how to manage and make sure that, a whole lot of fleet of flights are safe and reliable, right? There's all these different kind of specialization areas that you can work with, kind of listing them out. There's aerodynamics, there's systems design, there's astrodynamics and space applications, autonomy and control, propulsion, and structures. So, there's a whole spread of anything that has to do with, working with and working in the aerospace industry. I really enjoy that. I kind of got to see that spread when you kind of go through the major, you're at least being introduced with at least 1 or 2 classes to each of these areas. Okay. And you get to really kind of understand and really solve some pretty good problems trying to understand what each of these focus areas are all about. And then you, in your 4th year, in your senior year, you get to kind of pick one of those areas and really dive deep into them. I personally took aerodynamics, but I have a pretty interesting case where all of the aerodynamic classes that I've taken have had to do with how fluids behave in space, which I would say that most aerodynamics, specializations are thinking about planes and how like, the aerodynamics of like a vehicle are going to look, but I'm thinking exclusively about how like, fuel or something like that is going to work in a satellite or a probe. So I really like the space side of things personally.
And how did you figure out that was the concentration for you? Did you have to choose a concentration?
Yeah, I mean, like you are required to choose a concentration or one specialization area as required by your major. And again, because in that junior year and sophomore year, you get to like take at least 1 or 2 classes and that kind of introduce you and give you that baseline understanding of what controls is all about or what propulsion is all about. You get to really understand, okay, is this what I want to kind of do? Is this what's really been interesting me? And that kind of really helps you and helped me understand that, okay, like this fluid stuff, this aerodynamic stuff, that's pretty cool stuff. And, kind of understanding that there's like a whole field of, fluids that kind of works in zero gravity and with satellite stuff was really interesting to me. There's actually a specific class called AAE 418. It's taught by Professor Collicott. It's a project class, not your traditional lecture sit-in class. Instead, you kind of take on a project, and Professor Collicott's entire research area is about capillary fluid physics, which basically is just a really fancy way of saying...
A lot of fancy words.
Yeah. How do fluids behave in space, right? You have no gravity, your fluids are going to go all over the place. There's a lot of really interesting questions to kind of figure out there. And because I took that class, I was like, man, this is really fascinating. I wanted to kind of really deep dive into this. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what I ended up making my specialization.
Yeah, I guess a bit more on that. How did you end up pursuing AAE in general? I mean, there's so many majors here at campus. Yeah. Did you come in? Did you come here knowing you wanted to do that, or is it something that happened after your first year?
Yeah, I mean, growing up as a kid, I was a, big Neil deGrasse Tyson Cosmos fan, right? In my mind, at least, it felt like if I'm doing anything other than, getting us out into space, I'm wasting my time, yeah. Right? So I definitely had that kind of very, like, childish kind of, or maybe slightly naive kind of perspective in things. And I was like, man, I'm going to be a rocket scientist. I'm going to make rockets and stuff. So I definitely came in with that. FYE, that first year process where you get to really learn about each of the majors definitely did help cement that, that was the mature and wise decision for me. Definitely, being in college, being with, my upperclassmen, hanging out with professors and really helping, me understand that, okay, yes, I'm able to connect my childhood dreams to something that is, something I want to do professionally, right? And I felt like, this is a reasonable path. My parents were quite supportive of it. And that's kind of the reason that I was able to kind of keep that up and keep those childhood Ayush dreams of making rockets and whatever, kind of into it. And that's why I was able to stick with AAE and kind of stick with that aero side of things.
And you felt like you made the right choice?
100%. Yeah.
Were you one of the kids who was building the bottle rockets in his backyard when you were young?
Making the bottle rockets, making all the space shuttle Lego sets and whatnot. Yeah, very cool stuff.
Awesome. Are there, I know there's a bunch of, Purdue has over 1,000 clubs and organizations, and we usually recommend people get involved in at least one or two, where they're focused on both a hobby and more of a professional development one. Mm-hmm. Are there ones, I know you mentioned Purdue Space Program, are there ones other than Purdue Space Program that are more AAE oriented?
Yeah, I mean, there's a good spread of different aerospace-related organizations. It's not just aero. Like, we really try to kind of mix in all of the different majors. There's a huge thing that I learned where, you can't have only aerospace engineers to make, something work. You need to have the mechanical and the electrical and the industrial folks. But, I had a huge involvement with Purdue Space Program. And, you would think coming in that, okay, what this is going to teach me is all the technical stuff. It's going to give me hard technical resume points. The biggest learning that I had out of these organizations was how to work with a team, how to work with people. That is stuff that can't be taught to you in a textbook, and that really kind of helped me figure out, okay, this is how you work with teams. This is how you lead teams. This is how you work with people. This is how you engage in conflict that's bound to happen in the workplace among students, amongst colleagues. It's honestly the stuff that interviewers love to hear because, anyone can teach you any of the hard skills, right? Yeah. I can maybe, if not in one semester, over 1 year, you can learn the hard math, the hard skills, the hard physics. But I can't teach you how to be a good teammate. I can't teach you how to be a good colleague. So these student orgs, and being the president, being the secretary, being technical lead on one of the projects really helped me kind of flesh that out and really understand, okay, what is that all about? How do I better make myself appropriate for this kind of a situation, for this kind of a conflict when the schedule gets really tight? What's the right way to talk about it, right? Kind of navigating through all of those situations. So I'm really thankful for Purdue Space Program for that. But there's Purdue Orbital, there's the AIAA, Design, Build, Fly. These some of these organizations are really big. Some get pretty small, where you have a nice tight team. And so there's more than enough places where you can kind of find that niche for you, find a place for you to kind of learn that and kind of expose yourself to that, right?
Yeah, I think it's really cool you bring up that team aspect because, in all my classes since first year engineering, a lot of them, besides, of course, the general class we all take, they're all team-oriented. So to know that they're doing that in clubs as well, that's amazing.
Yeah, and it's something that I think can really set Purdue engineers apart is the fact that we've been exposed and experiencing teams through our entire college education. Yeah. And one of the interesting things that I've found in the last at least couple of interviews that I've done even is that companies are asking me more about the resume points that I have relating to professional communication and public speaking as opposed to some of the more technical skills that I quote unquote claim to have on my resume. I do have them. I'm just gonna clarify that because I made the air quotes there. I do have all the technical skills, but the focus on the professional communication is something that I found really interesting, just because to see that that's what the employers are really valuing out of the Purdue degree and out of incoming hires is interesting.
Yeah. Definitely. And I guess of all the courses you've taken so far, which one would you say had to be your favorite or most interesting?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously kind of, you can tell, but I really like the project-based courses, the ones where you're working with people, right? Right now I'm taking I'm just wrapping up with my senior design team. We're going to be presenting at the end of this week. And it's been such a satisfying experience. I mean, going from just a few scribbles on the whiteboard and I know this sounds so cliche to say, but to see the stuff in your textbook turn into a real product, a drawing, a concept of a drawing of a plane, and then 16 weeks later, not even, you are literally holding the plane that you made as a team and seeing it fly around a park. That is so cool. Yeah. It's so satisfying. The fact that it worked, the fact that we were able to make it do what we wanted it to do, right? That's engineering, all right? We flew it, it didn't work. We went back to the drawing board, revised it. That's engineering. We got to really, get our hands in there. I already talked about AAE 418, which is Professor Collicott's class. I got to work on a lot of cryogenic systems. Again, we were able to take our, fluids, information or lectures and I even went to my fluids professor and we spent almost an hour just on a whiteboard trying to talk about an actual research project that's going to fly just a few months from now. That's cool stuff to see that it's really like, going to be out there flying, I think is so satisfying. So it's always the project classes for me. Yes, I love my lectures, but nothing beats holding something in your hand and knowing that it was because of all the technical stuff that you learned that it's now here.
And just the satisfaction of you having made the thing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's incredible what you can do and what you can do on a team too.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel that with my senior design project right now. Never would have came together if I didn't have the other two team members.
It's like we only have so much knowledge, and to have like other teammates, it can only help.
Exactly. No, 100%. I mean, now that you say it, like, I so much more appreciate the idea and like the fact that you need teams to work on complex problems, right? And I couldn't have done it without any of my team members, and to really like have to like get to a point where I can appreciate that, like that's something probably, again, a thing that can't be taught to you in a textbook.
Yeah.
Right?
Were you expecting to learn that skill coming from high school?
Not at all. I mean, I thought I was just going to learn all the cool, I thought I was going to be like a little Tony Stark,
Yeah.
like just all on my own, figure out all of like, the technical stuff and get it, like, just solve problems like on repeat. But no, like, it's slow, it's meticulous, you need people. There's a lot of steps involved.
Yeah, now that you mentioned that, Calvin, I had no idea that it would be this team-oriented coming into college.
Exactly.
Especially not. Yeah, I was not prepared for that.
Coming into college, I was like, oh, group project?
Yeah, I thought
stay
I was
away.
expected to be on my own.
Yep, because, in high school, all the group projects are one person's doing 90% of the work, and then the other three people are just sitting there relaxing because one person's all like, it's got to be right.
and put my grade in someone else's hands? No way.
Not in high school. No. But that's one of the really cool things that I've found being at Purdue is that they're taking all the people who usually do 80-90% of the work in the group projects and sticking them on a team now. So it's a much more equitable distribution of work on those team projects. I guess following up with that, or kind of switching gears, are there any lab spaces specifically that you've really enjoyed that you have access to as a AAE student?
Yeah, I mean, I directly didn't get to work out there, but I think something, I absolutely need to mention as an aerospace and as an AAE student is Zucro Labs. It's probably, our big prime and prize out here. It's out near the airport, and having been, so involved with Purdue Space Program, it's an organization that really uses Zucro Labs. It's a propulsion lab out near the airport where, we have been privileged to get a small corner over there and test our engines out. So the fact that, again, you can think, okay, I want to build an engine. All right, I'm going to go to the drawing board, figure out how that works, figure out how to build it. And now I get to go out there and test it. Okay, it breaks. Okay, now I need to go back and figure out how that works. The fact that we can do that just 10 minutes down the road is so cool. And I've been down there. There's some really serious work happening. All of our celebrity professors are out there, I like to say. There's like Rolls-Royce is doing their engine development out there, and now we're just like a bunch of like 19 and 20-year-olds like in the corner just like trying to make our own engine work. Like the fact that we get to use the same facilities is so awesome. That's definitely like, a for sure mention. Just down in the down in Armstrong, I got to work with Professor Collicott's cryogenic systems, so I felt very fortunate to do that. Got my hands dirty with, plumbing and tubing and just turning all those wrenches. Definitely, again, brought reality to so much of that theory. I'm currently also enrolled in a class where we're working on satellite electronics, right? So the fact that I get to literally work on satellite hardware, flight hardware, and we have the facilities for that, mind blowing.
Wow.
Yeah. And I guess my question is, this sounds all very time consuming, and it sounds like, I don't know if you get sleep or not, but how do you manage that? How do you manage being in this major and being a student?
Okay, I will not lie, aero and even engineering in general, we know this, right? It's not necessarily the easiest. Yeah. One of the biggest inadvertent skills you'll learn is time management, right? But, I think that, like what you learn in all of this is how to kind of parse your time out, how to like, be more reasonable with yourself, how to be more reasonable with the people that you work with, right? And like I feel like I've definitely spent these 4 years trying to learn how to, like be more reasonable and work with the people and kind of say like, okay, I can only dedicate so much time, right? I have my classes, I have my projects, and like I know Purdue talks a whole lot about grit, right? And there's definitely some semblance of that around here. But you kind of get to find where your limits are at. And once you've kind of locked into there and you understand, okay, this is like my capacity of work, you can really begin to, I guess, like be productive with your team.
Yeah, I know I make a lot of to-do lists to help keep myself organized, and then
have to
set aside time for stuff that I need to do and have to do, and then I work well just having like ambiguous time that sometimes it molds into free time, other times it needs to be homework. But what are some time management skill or tips that you would have?
Always start early. Always start early. Oh my gosh. Like, I know, like, that's so easy to say. I know it's so simple to say. But it's like, you're more often than not going to get homeworks where you don't know if it's going to take you 13 hours or 2, right? So just assume that it's going to take you 15, right? And I mean, like, going to the office hours to like, even sometimes I would just go to office hours just to like sit there and get my homework done, even if I don't have questions. And that just kind of helps with trying to like have, like the kind of atmosphere which can keep you working, right? Obviously, like, I think there's a very healthy culture, at least in Aero. I can't speak for the other majors, but of kind of working together and really collaborating, helping each other with the homeworks and like helping each other conceptually, trying to make sure that, I think there's a good attitude of, okay, we're kind of all in this together and it's us, like against the homework or the assignment here. And really
not you against your peers.
Not you against your peers, right.
I found that in electrical engineering too. It's that they're not seeking to pitch you against one another to try to get an A. They really want everyone to learn, they being the professors. They want everyone to learn the content and know it well, to do well on the exams. They aren't itching to fail you. That they really encourage people, at least on most times, I think almost all the classes that I've had, to work on the homeworks together, to do the practice problems together, and to discuss the content and stuff with the professor if there's an area that you're struggling on. They're there to help you. And so with that, I guess, how have you felt the professors are in AAE? Are they accessible? Are they good at teaching? What are your feedback on them?
Yeah, I mean, more often than not, it's honestly been positive.
There's always a bad egg.
That's like, the reality of it is that you're going to have certain professors who are like, man, I can probably teach this better. I think that like more often than not, I've had professors which I feel like I was able to kind of like either walk into their office or book a time with them and really just kind of have almost a heart-to-heart, right? I'm kind of really interested in possibly going into teaching like in my own career, and kind of like I would like, kind of just email professors and be like, hey, I want to get your thoughts on this. And because of it, I was able to really connect with certain professors and get their ideas, get their thoughts, and they were very receptive to it. Honestly, more than I thought, right? So yes, I know there's like a certain kind of culture sometimes of like hating on your professors, but if you give them the chance to like talk to them one-on-one, they're actually pretty cool folks. And like, yes, Purdue is a research school, and you're going to have a lot of professors who are very dedicated to their research. That's just the reality of it. But I think that like, they also see that, and they're a professor for a reason, because, somewhere in their hearts, they really do want to be teaching you. Mm-hmm. They really do want to be kind of mentoring students, helping like the next generation of aerospace engineers or whoever it is. And somewhere in there they do kind of want to be able to help you in that way.
Yeah.
That is kind of what I've seen. It's my personal experience.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, overwhelmingly, I think it's been positive. And I feel like I've been able to connect with certain professors, especially in my senior year, where like the classes do get smaller. I get to like kind of make some chit chat while they're coming in and walking out. Right. So I'm honestly quite satisfied with the professors in Aero, and I'm quite happy with them.
Yeah. And I guess to top that off, how do you think the professors, the PSP, and everything you've been a part of all these 4 years has satisfied like your love for AE, and how has Purdue done that? And how do you think this has prepared you for your future?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think Purdue in general like does a very good job of making things available to you, right? I talked about how we are privileged to use Zucro, right? This super like high tech, like really. Lab space, but more than that, right? I've been on the administrative side of managing a student organization, so I kind of have faced in person, firsthand, the kind of relationship that Purdue like kind of wants and has with student orgs. They care a lot about us, right? They've given us a lot of money, they've given us a lot of space, and it kind of shows that and it's been because of student orgs, and those project classes, that I'm able to kind of show off all of these like engineering skills that I have on my resume or to employers. At the end of the day, I think that's where the value's at. Purdue, I feel like, has a good grasp on it. There's more there are so many classes which I wish I could take, but I'm graduating, that are kind of project related. So it feels like there's more than enough like places and spaces for me to kind of dive deep and pick up certain things and pick up whatever skill it is that I want. Honestly, sometimes I feel an analysis paralysis of having too many options. But I think at the bottom line is that Purdue makes sure that things are available to you. It's aero engineering, especially at Purdue, is big. Like there's a lot of students, but I've never felt like, this is a
never felt lost in a sea.
Never felt lost or there's too many people or you're going to have student orgs that are very big, but there's always going to be another student org that can maybe kind of fit you in. Right. I talked about PSB. It is about a 500 member organization.
Oh, wow.
Orbital is another organization. AIAA DBF is another organization. So there's other places that you can go where you can kind of pursue and kind of pick up on those same skills and learnings. So I think overall, I think and Purdue does a good job of making sure that that's supported, keeps the lights on for these kind of organizations.
Yeah, and looking, I know you're graduating in, I guess, a week and a half or so.
Yes.
So what are you looking towards in the future? Where are you going next? Have you felt Purdue's adequately prepared you for that?
Yeah, definitely. So I'll be actually pursuing a master's. I'll be in Colorado Boulder. Honestly, as much as I love Purdue, I do want to be a drive away home from home and not a flight. And it's been, I look forward to kind of seeing what I can do with my master's. But Purdue is 100% kind of equipped me for that. I am hoping that my next place is going to maintain the same level of I guess availability and everything that Purdue has given me. It's definitely mentally on the back of my mind, but so I definitely think that Purdue has kind of turned me into an engineer that I'm quite proud of, right? And I wouldn't really do it any other way, honestly.
Awesome. That's great to hear. Yeah. I guess before we wrap up, and I think we have one more question before we do that. We've talked a lot about the academics, but are you a student outside of your academics? What do you do for social life around the university and as an AAE student?
Yeah, I mean, as a student, I've definitely been involved with, Purdue has a Muay Thai group, so I try to do a lot of martial arts and stuff. So I've been involved there. There's a lot to do. I know like people say Purdue middle of nowhere, but that's not necessarily true. There's honestly some like beautiful
lots of things to do around and in the greater
yeah.
Lafayette area.
Yeah.
Surprisingly large number.
Yeah. Like, it sounds weird, but like my friends and I are very competitive in bowling. So we go bowling every Monday anyways. Yeah, so there's more than enough things to do. Like, I go line dancing every Thursday.
That's fun.
Yeah, that's like a thing that I've picked up as in the Midwest. What else? And then on the weekends, like, there's always something around. Honestly, for like the appropriately aged, we go to the bars. But yeah, so they're like I've definitely like had a lot of fun socially and all of that over here. Again, wouldn't take it back. Yeah.
Awesome. That's great to hear.
Thank you so much for your insights. We really enjoyed having you on the podcast today. Nice. And I guess our final question is going to be, what advice would you give to an incoming student that's pursuing Purdue engineering?
Talk to your upperclassmen, right? They have already walked the path that you're on right now. They have been in your shoes, more likely or not. I know, especially when things are hard, things can feel like, man, no one's going to get it, or no one's kind of been in this situation. Talk to your upperclassmen. They've been in the classes you're going to be enrolling in. They kind of have an idea of what things are going to be all about, which professors to like and which ones to avoid. There's a lot, of value in talking to upperclassmen, master's students, PhD students, people. Maybe when you have your internships, go talk to as many people as you can over there, right? Ask them the same question of what's your best advice. There's always something that you can learn from somebody, no matter who they are. Mm-hmm. Whether that's academic related, professional related, personal life related, it's always led to something, at least something to reflect on, even if you don't agree with it. So yeah, I think that's, a very healthy thing to do. I try to do it as often as I can, wherever it is that I go. So yeah, I say that's probably my best advice.
That's some good advice.
I feel like that's great advice. I mean, talking to, even if they have walked a completely different path than you, that you can usually learn something from them, or at the very least, get a better understanding of the kind of people that you maybe will interact with in the future.
Yeah.
And so I guess that concludes this week's episode. As always, please reach out to the Office of Future Engineers if you have any further questions.
Yep, and we will see you guys next week.